We don't hear this side of the story enough. What good men actually feel about love, loss, and devotion. My guest today says there are still men who cherish feminine women, who love deeply, and who believe that true partnership brings balance and growth. If you've ever wondered whether real love still exists, this conversation is for you. Welcome to the secret formula of femininity for women who want to live a more feminine, fun, and fabulous life. I'm Dr. Nicole Montero, your host on this weekly journey to unlocking your inner radiance, nurturing fulfilling relationships, and becoming the best version of yourself. Welcome, everybody. I'm Dr. Nicole, your host and guide on this journey to tapping into your feminine essence.
We actually went to Antigua, and that's where both of my parents are from.
Okay. Wow.
And, for her, she's like, because there was a lot of things going on with both sides of our families. There was different just challenges all across the board. So everyone was looking forward to going to our wedding, friends and family, right? But then we started thinking about everyone else. Like, man, is this really the time to, because we knew that we didn't want to get married in Jersey or New York. We're like, we want to do someplace nice. But then it's like, okay, what's going to be fair? What's going to be reasonable? And we couldn't find a common ground. So one night, just out of the blue, she was like, what are your thoughts on eloping? And at the time, I didn't know what it was. I was like, what is that? It was like, it's a destination wedding, but it's just the couple and nobody gets to go. So me, I'm like, ooh, that's a little different. But the more we talked it out, I said, that's probably going to be the fairest thing because it would be unfair and it would be kind of selfish if we were to put folks out of their way financially to
Yeah,
show up
just
for.
as much as they would
So,
want to, but it would be a lot.
yes.
Yes.
And it would be too much. And we didn't want to do that because again, we loved our people, family and friends equally, that we did not want to do that to them. Right. And we talked about it for a couple of weeks. And then we just decided, like, all right, let's do somewhere in the islands. So she started looking up all of the rules because there's a lot of things there's a lot of steps that you have to go through, and every country is different.
Yeah.
Right. And we knew that we only going to have like a week, especially because depending on the time that we picked, I was going to be in school and possibly in season. Right. So the first thing that she had to do was pick the time frame. So when she decided, like, hey, from a spiritual standpoint, the spring seems to be the best time to start a reunion like this. I said, I agree. Let's do it. So then when she picked the week that would make the most sense, she said that at that point, our list had to get shrunk down to a very short list because there's not many places that you can get married there within a couple of days because most of them require you to be in that country on that island for
Oh,
X
for a
amount
certain
of
period
days.
of time. Okay, wow. So you would have had to extend it in other countries.
Yes. So when she started coming up with the list, the one place that stood out to me was Antigua.
That's your
I said,
ancestral, where your
oh,
parents are from.
I said, babe, if we pick Antigua, I already know the beach. And she's like, wait, what? I already know the beach that I would want to go. And it's where so my mom's oldest sister, who was my favorite aunt and favorite person on earth, where her house in Antigua was, and because we had been there before, Morris Bay Beach was one of my favorite beaches. And Antigua is, for those that don't know, Antigua has 365 beaches. So
Whoa.
it's a
That
place
has to
to
put
go
that
if
on
you
the
love
list.
beaches.
Wow.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But for whatever reason, that beach meant something to me. So I said, we go there, that's the beach.
Yeah.
And she said, all right. So we started putting the plans in motion. But I was wrestling with the thought process of, do I really not tell anybody? Right. Because I knew that
So
my
you
family
guys
was
weren't
going
gonna.
2 days before. It was destroying me to keep that secret. So I ended up breaking and telling my parents. And I probably, looking back, I probably just should have just shut my mouth because
What
it
did
it
they
definitely stirred the pot, and they
Okay.
weren't happy about it, especially
Yeah.
because it's their island, right? They were definitely bummed about it. And, at that point, I'm not saying that I didn't care, but it really
Yeah.
didn't matter
Mm. Well, that's where
because
you were choosing that's where a man has to build his family, and not that you don't
right.
respect your family, but that was the
And
starting
that's
point.
exactly the energy that I tapped into.
Mhm.
Because my whole thing is, and even, we ended up having conversations, years after the fact. That's where I had to let them really understand how deep I was thinking about marriage in totality. I'm like, listen, this stuff has been on my mind since I was 5 years old,
Yeah.
right? I knew that once I got to the point of settling down with somebody to be my wife, I'm going to choose my wife over everybody. So
Mm.
no matter who's included in that wide net of everybody, just understand that my wife is going to always be number one,
Yeah.
right? And it took some time for everyone to come to grips with that. So granted, there was some rocky roads when it comes to,
Some rough
me and my family. Yeah, there was a lot to overcome and to get past. But once they saw how amazing our relationship was and how happy I was,
Yeah.
they just had to finally accept it,
Yeah.
right? So our
What
our wedding day was absolutely amazing.
what's
We got married April 13th, 2011.
Wow.
So leading up to that, basketball had literally ended the week before. And it was a great year for us for Bloomfield College because we ended up, for those that follow college basketball, we made it to the March Madness tournament
Oh,
for
wow.
Division P,
Yeah.
and we lost in the Elite Eight, which is the furthest any team has
Yeah.
gone in from our conference. So it was a big deal. Like, the game was on CBS, like it was like that,
Mhm.
right? And what about a week? Yeah, it was about a week after that I had to start preparing to be gone for another week. So, like, missing another week of school, everyone was like, dude, you were just gone for a week for basketball. Like, where are you going now? I'm going to get married. Like, what?
You're
Like,
like,
bro, you're in
"My
the middle of
professor said
school.
excuse me." Good
And
excuse.
that was a much easier conversation than I anticipated
Uh-huh.
because I was such an intentional student at that point in time. It was very easy for me to have that conversation with my professors because they knew I was way more mature than the rest of the students that
Yeah.
they were ever dealing with. So when I pulled every professor to the side and let them know, like, hey, I'm going to miss the next two classes because I'm getting married, they're like, you're doing what? And my statistics teacher was also my theater teacher, one of the hardest teachers at that college.
Mm.
And he was very proud to tell us that he was so impressed with how I prepared for my time being gone
Yeah.
because there were a few assignments that I went ahead and did before they were due.
Just
So
to make
when I
sure you
approached him, I
focus.
said, before I say anything, here's the homework that I know we would probably, need to do this week. I went ahead and did it beforehand. And then even for the theater class, here's the paper ahead of time just so I didn't miss anything because I don't want you feeling that you have to do me any favors.
Mhm.
Like
Mhm.
I need to take care of my business. And he just looked at me and he said, Conroy, this is probably the most responsible thing I've ever seen a student do. So he has never given anyone an A in his 30 years of teaching. I was the first one to get an A in his statistics class. I was very intentional and I wanted to debunk that basketball players can't
Mm.
succeed in
They're
the
not
classroom.
actually
So being gone to Antigua for that week, I was stress free from everything because now I'm really about to come back a husband. I'm about
yeah.
to have my
You
right next to
probably
me.
like
We were both on cloud nine and
Mhm.
to go through, we ended up married that morning. Two ladies from Boston took the same flight as us to get to Antigua. And then we both look at each other like, we actually need witnesses.
Oh, yeah.
So we invited them. We didn't know this until the morning of. They had went out to go find like a really nice bottle of champagne
Mm.
for us. And then the guy that worked the front desk, we ended up becoming really close with him as
Yeah.
well. So he also got an invite. And man, like that whole experience, it was very reverent.
Yeah. Cinematic.
Yes. And it's funny because as soon as we got that picture back from our photographer, I said, babe, this looked like an album cover.
It does.
And what we ended up doing, that was the picture that we put on our wedding DVD of
Mm.
pictures because she made, I don't even know how she found the time to do this, but she made a DVD of just a collection of all the pictures that we took, added music to it. And then the second day where we took a few hours to do a legit photo shoot, our photographer made that whole experience like next level, especially when we got our pictures back.
Yeah.
Because at one point there was rain. Um, there was a lot of rain happening during our second day of shooting pictures, and we're both like there was a point that she was getting teary eyed. She was like, "Man, I really hope our pictures aren't awful." Like,
And look,
you know, man, we got the pictures back. I see her crying. And I'm like, babe, what happened? So now protective mode just kicked in.
yeah.
I thought somebody done did something to her. And all she could do is just wave me over. So I come around her desk and I'm looking at our pictures and my jaw just dropped like, wait, what? This is that's
They
us?
are amazing.
Amazing pictures. And for her to see that type of joy in her, I was like, all right, we definitely made the right decision. For most men, when they decide whoever that woman is going to be that they want to spend the rest of their life with, forget the investment on the ring. They're
Mm.
investing their energy, they're investing their heart, they're investing their time into making sure that that woman is taken care of on all fronts, right?
Yeah.
So to get to that point of just making sure that my wife was happy every day, I woke up with that intention on a daily basis. I challenged myself every day to do something that's going to make my wife smile. So whether it's making her laugh,
Mm.
whether it's getting her to the point of appreciating something that I may do or say, that was a daily goal. And I'm talking for 14 years, every day, I was
And since
intentionally doing
that,
that. So I think and one thing for her that I had to also get her to understand more about me, a lot of the times how I make her smile doesn't have to be what I say. It's
mm.
going to be by what I do and
And
how
that's
I
what we
show
were
up for
saying
her.
before we started actually recording is sometimes women have to understand that there's a level of communication that men will do that is totally about their action and behavior and not about their words.
And I think that gets missed a lot,
Mm,
right? Because the majority of women want to hear words of affirmation because that
mhm.
may be their love language. However, there has to be some cause for pause and some grace given because most men have been trained and brought up to suppress those feelings, to
Mm,
suppress those thoughts, right? Because you're almost ridiculed for having emotion or showing emotion, especially in the love space,
yeah, by other
right?
men or just in
In
society.
general. But I think in society it's like, oh, you don't want to do that. And culturally too.
Yeah.
Because I know even from a Caribbean background,
Mm,
love is not something that is talked about from a male perspective, like
yeah.
at all,
Yeah.
right? But you can know how much somebody loves you by what they do for you
Mm,
and what they do to you, right? So some women just need to understand, especially if you know that that man cares about you, stop worrying about what he's saying and start paying attention to what he's doing. Because if he's showing up for you in whatever way that you need, and the words are very limited,
mm.
his actions are speaking louder than his words, because there are some guys, and I think because of the love bombing that
Yeah.
tends to happen, you get so enamored and caught up with him quickly saying, I love you. But what is he showing you to tell you and
Yeah.
confirm to you that he loves you?
What kind of conversations did you and Davina have where you explained that to her? Where you all were able to come to an understanding?
I think for me, it was letting her, especially growing up the way that I did,
Mm,
I wasn't always given the opportunity to be vocal in how I wanted to express my feelings, right? So my voice was suppressed very, very, very early, right? So instead of keep trying to voice opinions, voice, express emotions from a verbal standpoint,
mm,
I knew that I had to do it from a physical and body language and
yeah,
effort standpoint, right? So there were times that I couldn't explain myself in words, but I can explain myself in actions.
mm,
And what I started to express to her, especially once I knew that I had that safe space in her, that's when a lot of those kind of childhood things got an opportunity to heal,
yeah,
because now I can zone in and figure out this is why I feel that I can't say certain
uh-huh,
things and be comfortable saying what I actually feel,
mhm,
because it's something that was almost drilled into me going through my teenage years and even into early adulthood. And then for her, she's just like, a woman just wants to hear that they are loved and
yeah,
appreciated.
yeah,
I said, I understand that. However, what does your heart tell you?
yeah. Your
I rather touch your heart than touch your ears.
Let
Go
the
to bed.
people yes, people need to hear this. You know why? Because as beautiful as your love story is, it's still human. There's still disagreements sometimes and misunderstandings and having to grow and understand each other. And I think that's the part that gets missed because yes, it is like a movie the way you share the story with us, but it's also real life. And I talk to so many women that don't understand that the best relationships are still gonna you're still two people and you have to grow and everybody has to compromise and there's some misunderstandings and missteps. And I think we look for this fairy tale, but you have to know within the fairy tale it's still real life. And so I love that you shared that you all had to come to an understanding about that.
And it's funny because the word compromise, I think, carries such a negative connotation for most people because they look at it from a glass half empty perspective,
Like
meaning
I'm
that they
losing.
have to give
Yeah.
up something or I'm losing something if I do this, right? But for me, I've always behaved with the mindset that in order to change your outcome, you have to change your perspective. And if you change your perspective on compromise, you're going to realize that compromise is not bad. It's actually good.
Yeah.
Because when you get to the point of trying to understand where your partner is coming from, trying to understand the spaces that they're in that you are a novice in,
Mhm.
it brings you closer because you now understand how they operate in their space. And now your level of connecting just got deeper because with Davina and I, she was into astrology very, very heavy and spirituality and understanding energies and space and all of that stuff. That was new to me,
Mm,
right? But I knew that, especially being that this is the person I'm going to spend the rest of my life with, I need to dabble in her world so I understand when she's having these conversations and she wants to get this stuff off of her chest, it is going to be beneficial to me to understand what she's
important
talking
stuff.
about.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
So I started to really take a dive into her world and allowed her to teach me those things. And what I've learned from her, I've learned myself even more on a deeper level because I knew that with my birthday being September 3rd, I knew I was a Virgo, but that's it. I didn't know anything
What it's
outside of
supposed to
that.
mean. Who's a Beyonce's they say you guys are it's very interesting. Like I know a little bit about astrology, but very precise, particular, follows through with things, right? Those are the characteristics that they say. Yes.
Correct. And actually for the first 2 years of us being together, that was the only way that Davina could remember my birthday. It's the day before Beyonce. She didn't even say
Oh
September
my
3rd.
God.
They're like,
It's like,
oh, when is Junior's birthday? The day before Beyonce. I'm like, for real? Come on, man. but but again, like, she started to understand me even more. Like, and then when she started to explain all the traits, I said, oh, so that's why I'm like, oh, okay. So now with that information, who's benefiting more, her or me? I'm benefiting
by
because
you
I made that
opening
compromise.
your, yeah, yeah. Well,
And then even, go ahead.
what?
No, I was going to say, even on the flip side of her entering my world of sports,
Mm-hmm.
she also knew that she needed to compromise spending that time as well, because for me it wasn't just basketball.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm a basketball fan. I am now a fan of the NFL. Then during the springtime I'm watching tennis, I'm dabbling in baseball, I'm watching
Mm.
golf. So,
Just love the
like,
all of it. Yeah.
year round, it's all about sports for me. So she knew that in order to tap into the quality time that we want to spend with each other, she had to start getting herself acclimated into the different sports. So although her knowledge level wasn't where I was, but it was very similar to the astrology piece. She's expert level, up here, right?
You start
But
playing. Yeah.
right. And once we started to be in each other's spaces like that, our connection got even stronger from that point. And the intentionality allowed for us to truly appreciate each other on a daily basis on many, many different levels.
Yeah.
And I think nowadays that's also missed, focusing on the friendship more than the title.
And that is
Because
what all of the research says, like long-term relationships are sustained through friendship. And even when you're talking about, like, I just did an episode talking about marriage as expanding you, because there's so much narrative now, like, oh, you're missing out, you have to shrink yourself. And I'm like, no. And you just said it, like, you expanded yourself, she expanded herself, because you're latching on to another person's interests and things that they know, and that only makes you better. You start knowing about things that you never would have known about. She starts getting immersed in sports on a whole different level, and that's how me and my husband are. We'll watch sports and he'll be analyzing it. He's a soccer player. He's analyzing, the coach did this and that, and it makes me analyze just life. I'm like, all right, when someone is so hyped up on adrenaline, they need an outside person to help give them a perspective. But that's just from me sitting with him talking about sports, but then it applies to other areas in life. So it only
absolutely.
expands you. But I want you to tell us, Conroy, like, name for my audience, the ladies watching, what are the feminine traits or characteristics that you saw in Davina that you like? How did you know? Because I heard a man say, you just know a wife. You just go to the grocery store, you go here or there, and you know that's a wife. And I'm assuming that there were things about Davina that you just, but like, and I know you said sometimes you don't hard to just put it to words, but like,
Oh no, now I'm a
think
motor mouth. I
affirmation.
I,
Okay,
I could get it
yes.
out. I can get it out. The first thing that really, really drew me to Davina is her care for people,
Mm,
right? Because I think we spend so much time again ignoring some folks' actions that all we want to care about is what they say, but talk is cheap, right?
yeah.
What are you actually doing to show up for the people that you care about? So for me, watching her, whether it's her family, of doing the simple things like whenever her mom or grandmother wanted to or needed to travel anywhere, she's the one doing the planning and buying their tickets and making sure that they have what they need to get to and from the airport. Or if one of her girlfriends was just going through a tough time, it's making time to
Mm,
show up for her friends
yes.
and being there, even if it was past her bedtime, because Davina was an early bird going to bed because
Yeah.
she's an early bird waking up the next day. But even if she has to sacrifice her sleep for one of her friends in need, she was going to do that.
Yeah.
Going back to even my situation of the blanket, but even take the blanket story out of it, when you're, especially the folks who were athletes, who is especially back then, like now with this NIL stuff, it's totally a different space. But back then, you couldn't work. The NCAA had so many stupid rules that you really, really, it was
It's a
hard to
joke,
find a job.
right? Uh-huh.
So you're broke as a joke when you're a college student. And there were so many times I just didn't want to depend on anybody, or in my parents' case, I didn't want them worrying about me.
Yeah. Yeah.
So there were so many times that I literally was like legit starving of not having any food
Mm,
for a couple of days. And when I finally opened up and told her that, in that moment, it was almost like I broke her heart, dude. We're just friends at this point.
yeah.
And she hated hearing me say that. So I'll never forget the first Friday. I think it was the first Friday of November because it was right after Halloween, whenever that may have happened that year of '08. We were getting ready to go away for a tournament. And she said, I ordered something for you, but when that your bus is leaving, just tell me.
Yeah.
And in my mind, I'm like, what did she order? Like, I don't need anything. We're all geared up. So in my mind, I'm thinking it's something basketball related.
Yeah.
I get to her office. I say, hey, bus is leaving at so and so time. She said, I'll be right back. She came back. She said, call some of your teammates. I got some stuff for you guys. She ordered a bunch of pizza, drinks, all of that for the team. Me, I got special treatment. So
Wow.
not only did I have my own pie, she ordered me penne alla vodka and a shrimp Alfredo personal plate
Mhm.
entree for me. Then she gave me a bag of drinks. So it was Snapple apples, mango madness,
Oh, I
Sprite,
know all
ginger
those
ale.
yeah. Uh-huh.
She was like, "You will never be hungry around me ever again."
Mm, so nurturing.
That's the next word. Because of the fact that she was so nurturing, and it wasn't her own brand, because people thought that because of how beautiful she was, but also because she's a Capricorn,
Mm,
she is very confident in her energy.
yeah.
So most people thought that she just was mean and stuck up and whatever other attributes that was thrown her way. And she was the polar opposite.
Mm. They
Because again,
projected
for
their
me,
own insecurities, but you were able I'm just talking through this as I'm listening because you were secure in yourself. You were able to connect to her and not be, put off by whatever the image everybody else thought, she's beautiful, she's together, but you saw how nurturing and how she sounds like so soft and just wanting to be there for people.
yes, because even when I looked at how she operated within the student activity space, right? She
Mhm.
had her student government, students, and then she always needed helping hands around the campus to get certain events done, put together, all of that. She always hired the basketball players because she knew that they needed some type of cash in hand.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what nurturing looks like with actions. It's
Yeah.
not about telling everybody what you're doing for them. It's about just doing it without the fanfare.
Yeah.
And for
Yeah.
me, I appreciated paying attention to that because again, she taught me that as a Virgo, I pay attention to the details.
Details down to the so it's not
So
surprising to hear you were doing that at 5 years old.
paying attention to everything that was
Yeah.
happening around me. I think the next thing that stood out to me is confidence.
Mm.
And her confidence showed up in so many different ways. Number one, she was confident in her intelligence, and not just from a book sense point of view,
Yeah.
because she went and got a master's from NYU.
Mm.
She just loved learning. She also, after NYU, she went and got another degree at FIT because she was just well versed, and she was a free spirit in wanting to do a multitude of things and not
Yeah.
just be pigeonholed into one area or another, right? She was confident in her look. She was confident in just how she carried herself, how she dressed, how she walked, how she communicated
Mm.
on a one-on-one basis. She wasn't a public speaker at
Yeah.
all. She was
But
very
she
nervous
would
about
show
that stuff.
herself, it sounds like.
But when it came to showing up for people, her confidence was always at an all-time high. And for us, I never tried to dim that,
Mm.
right? Especially in the very beginning of our marriage, because she was the breadwinner,
Yeah.
right? And I think society has blinded us into thinking that the man has to always be the breadwinner. But one thing that life teaches you from time to time, life is gonna life.
It's
And
gonna
there's gonna
humble you.
be time.
Yeah.
It's gonna humble you, and it's gonna put you in a position where you're going to have to lean on one another
Mm.
in times that you didn't plan for, or things are just going to happen where you just have to switch things up if you're smart enough and if you're paying attention,
Yeah.
right? So I always knew that at some point I was going to take care of my wife, because when we were in our friendship, dating, and beginning of our marriage state, she was taking care of me.
Yeah.
And
But that
it's not
didn't
like,
change the respect, right? Because that's what you hear with these dialogues, that either the woman won't respect the man or the man's gonna, whatever, not respect himself. But if you're doing it for the long game, this is a marathon. So what you're saying is the first mile or two, okay, she had to carry me a bit, but you always knew that wasn't something that you were using, that you're gonna just be taken care of. You knew you were going to be in a position to take care of her.
and she also knew that as well,
Yeah.
because that was the one thing that I used to ask her. Like, listen, we have a 10-year gap. How is it that it took someone, again, in my age bracket, to get your attention enough to settle down with, knowing that now I'm just getting started in this thing called life, in the professional space, and building on that. She was like, from day one, I saw your potential. I
Wow.
married your potential
Yeah. Well,
because
they say
I
not to do
saw
that.
that.
What do you think? You know how they say don't, it sounds like it was different though. Tell it, break it down, because you know how they say don't marry a man for potential.
No, I think the potential is based on the perspective of the individuals involved,
Hmm.
right? I think in today's conversation, when you hear potential, I think it's from a very bare minimum perspective and very surface level, right? Where I think when it comes to you deciding on your person, your husband, your wife, your forever person, what can we build together is what you're marrying,
Mm.
more than what can they do for me.
Yes. Say that
'Cause
again. Okay, what can we build together rather than I'm banking
what
on
can you
what this
do?
person can do for me?
And when Davina broke that down to me, she would always harp on the fact that I always thought big picture, which she knew that, because that's one of the attributes of a Virgo.
Mhm.
Virgos are always forward thinking, always, wanting to put like a lofty goal out there, and their game plan that they're going to formulate is to exceed that. So for her, she knew that about me from a much deeper level.
Mm.
So she knew that if I bought her something, so like the 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 first year that we were a couple, going into just before we got engaged, I always heard her talk about this different schools that she went to, right? And because I went to so many different colleges before I met her, I always had hoodies from my previous
Yeah.
basketball team, right? And then I also had like a couple of my high school jerseys that I walked around with me because those were sentimental to me.
Uh-huh.
So then I started looking around the apartment and she didn't have anything from any of her schools. And those were major accomplishments for her.
Mm.
So what I did, starting with her birthday in January, I went and found a hoodie from her high school, from Old Westbury, from NYU, from FIT.
Wow.
And every holiday that there was needed to be a gift exchange, it was
You
one
had
of
it
those
planned
hoodies.
out that you were gonna give her something of from each of these schools.
Now, for her, her perspective of it is, I know that you don't have no money. I know that it's, a challenge for you to kind of move around because, again, back then, and this is only 2009 that we're talking about, it still wasn't that simple to just get up and order stuff online. Some
Yeah.
people weren't in that space yet. So for some of those schools, I had to go get it. Like I physically had to
Yeah.
go to their
The store, the campus store.
bookstore. Correct. And I had to physically do that. So she knew the effort and the thought that I put in for that whole year to do that for her, like every time, because she never knew when it was coming too. And now the next word, the appreciation and the gratitude from her
Yeah.
also stood out to me, right?
Nurture, kindness, confidence, appreciation. Yeah.
Appreciation and gratitude is in the
Gratitude.
same boat. And for her, it was it was very important for her to make sure that I heard those things, right? Because again, when she took time to get to know me and be around me in different spaces with different people, she started noticing like you do so much for people and a lot of them don't even tell you thank you.
Mm.
You say, now that you say that, you're right. We could sneak intentional
Mhm.
into the list because she was very intentional to making sure that I knew that I was appreciated by her.
Yeah, yeah.
And
You
for
both
me, that
took a
meant
lot of
everything.
care. Like, it sounds like you both were so intentional with each other. You took a lot of care to not just take the other for granted, but also not to take for granted, oh, well, that person should just know how I feel. Like, you didn't just take it for granted. It was something precious. And I know
And we
there's
appreciated that.
appreciate it and notice it about each other. That's
Hmm.
very emotional. That's a high level of emotional intelligence on both sides. And
Very so.
this is such a beautiful story. And I know that there's a sad part to the story because you lost
Indeed.
Davina. What happened?
Indeed. So the toughest part about that time period is so June of 22, it was probably for us, it was an emotional 48 hours because it was a roller coaster ride.
Mhm.
On It was a Tuesday. I'll never forget. I was at work because at this point I was about a year and a half of dealing with a blood clot in my left leg.
Oh,
And it was scary, definitely. We didn't get a chance to celebrate our 10-year wedding anniversary because it was literally weeks before our anniversary that
mm,
I found the blood clot. So we had to cancel all of our plans. Like we had a dope road trip planned,
mm,
Airbnb set out like yeah, we were just going to have a really dope week. And when the blood clot happened, like we were both bummed out. But for her, the way that she showed up and did anything and everything to take care of me, again, that's something that time I look back on like this is the point where in sickness and health breaks up a lot of marriages
yeah, yeah,
because we number one, we don't think of those vows as often as we should, right? And I feel that we gloss over those words and just take it for granted on how important that's going to be in this thing called life. So this Tuesday afternoon, my My regular doctor and my vein doctor called me minutes apart, and they're like, "Hey, Conroy, we got some good news. We're starting to see that the blood clot is shrinking. All of the
Mm.
procedures that we've done is definitely working, and you're progressing to the point where within the next 6 months you might not have to be on Eliquis, which is the blood
Mm.
thinner,
Uh-huh.
anymore."
Yeah.
So now, like, I'm excited. Like, I'm outside of my job. I'm screaming, I'm yelling. And then I called Davina and I'm letting her know. And we had a real emotional moment on the phone.
Yeah.
And for her, she's just like, "I'm so glad you're such a good person. Like, I don't understand how you deal with so many challenges throughout your life. And you have been nothing but kind to everybody you come in contact with. Like, it's about time that you got some good news."
Yeah.
Right. The very next day, I am at work and she calls me. And typically, she would text me
Okay.
before she would call, like, especially if she wanted to just talk. She would just say, "Hey, are you busy?" And if I
Yeah.
say no, she's calling, right? But she just called. And thankfully, I wasn't busy at the moment. And as soon as she said babe, it was the way that she said it. I said, "Are you okay?" She was like, "No, I need you."
Mm.
I said, "Give me a few. I will be right there." I go to my other manager. I said, "I don't know what's going on at home, but I need to leave right now." And I didn't ask any more questions to her, and I didn't call her on the way home because there were so many emotions. Like, I cried driving home
Mm.
because I was so nervous
You
on
knew
what
some.
it was.
Yeah.
I knew something heavy was on her mind or going on.
Mm.
And man, like, I was just boohooing the whole way, driving like a bat out of hell to get to my wife. And as soon as I open the door, my son looks at me like, "Why are you home so early?" But he's excited, right?
And how
But
old was
he was, let's see, he was 8, about to be 9. Yeah. So he was just excited that daddy's home,
Yeah.
right? And especially it wasn't nighttime,
Yeah.
right? And I said, I'll be right there. Let me just check on mommy real quick." He's like, "Okay." And then I hear him on his headset telling, "My dad's home early from work." So, like,
Mm.
he's excited, but I can't even have a smile on my face because, like, my heart is
You know
heavy.
something. Yeah.
When I come into the room and she's holding herself together as best as she could. And I said, "What's going on?" She said, "I was watching Ray Donovan. And the weekend before, one of my old teammates from Bloomfield, we would hang out with them in Massachusetts like every other weekend. And they had just told us about Ray Donovan's the series, because we're always late to the stuff on
Okay.
Netflix and all of the
Yeah.
streaming apps. So all those different shows, we are dead last in
Yes.
getting on them.
Yes.
So because, she was a stay-at-home mom and homeschooled our son, she had more time than I did.
Mm.
So she started watching Ray Donovan. And there was a point that Ray Donovan's wife was taking a shower. And in the shower, she started to check herself,
Yeah.
for lumps. And while Davina's watching it, she's laying down. So she goes to check herself and she felt something and
Oh,
panicked.
wow.
And that's when she called me. She said, "I just need you to confirm that I'm not losing my mind, that I felt something."
Yeah.
I'm like, "Oh, golly, like, this can't be happening right
Yeah.
now." Right. Um, and for context, my mom is still a breast cancer survivor. My same favorite aunt that I mentioned, at this point, she had already passed away from breast cancer.
Mm.
Um, so the two of the top three, well, top four most important women in my life, my mom, my aunt, my sister, and my wife,
Yeah.
um, half of them dealt with it. And one of the two is no longer here, right? So I literally reached down, and as soon as I felt it, like, my heart dropped instantly. I'm trying my best to just not even shed a tear because I know I need to be strong for her. But what broke me was she started crying, but it wasn't for herself. She started crying for me.
Mm.
She was crying because she's like, "Your mom dealt with this. Auntie Berta dealt with this. you just dealt with your blood clot situation
Mhm.
and not even 24 hours have passed. And here you are with another thing on your plate because the summer before, we just found out that my dad was dealing with prostate cancer.
Mm.
Then my sister has some type of weird, like blood cancer going on at the
Oh,
same time, too.
yeah.
So for her, she was so overcome with emotion because
For you.
she felt horrible that I had another thing on my plate. And she knew that because it's her, this is going to top everything
Yeah.
and everybody. Man, she probably cried for like 2 hours.
Wow.
Like, why you? She's not even saying why me. She's saying why you.
Yeah. Yeah.
And as her husband, to this day, it still kind of just takes me back a little bit and makes me continue to
Yeah.
appreciate the level of care, of thought, of appreciation that she had and admiration that she had for me so much that with this thing now in her body, she didn't even care about herself.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. So to go through now of dealing
What
with the
year was that?
reality, this is 2022.
Wow. Yeah.
So like to now have to game plan all of this, like I also had a different type of appreciation from my dad because to be a husband watching the love of your life go through this
Mhm.
and because my mom, we're in 2025, my mom is now 11 years cancer free, right?
Okay.
But there was a window of time that they kind of had to become hermit crabs and just take care of what they needed to do. And again, going back to a cultural upbringing, men don't get the opportunity to express their emotions,
Yeah.
right? And talk about how they feel.
Mhm.
So when my mom was having her surgery to remove the breast,
Mhm.
no one else was kind of available to kind of be there. And again, me being the forward thinker that I was, like, I'm calling around, like, yo, who can show up to be there? And not just for my mom, but for my
Of
dad.
that, yeah.
And at that point in time, like nobody was available. So I made myself available
Yeah.
and I surprised them with my presence.
Mm.
And I'll never forget because I went to work and I took the last flight out of Jersey to meet them in Florida. And my aunt at the time, my husband, I mean my uncle's wife, I let her know, like, hey, I'm gonna be there for my mom's surgery, but do not tell them anything. I want
Yeah.
to surprise them because I know that it's gonna make them feel better.
Mm.
And she picked me up. It was probably like after midnight that I got to Florida, actually more closer to 1. And I get there, and now, like, my adrenaline is on another level because, it became real that I now had to be a part of this experience. And I'll never forget my mom. I knew that I know my parents better than they know themselves. So
Yeah.
I knew that they weren't sleeping, right? But I was just trying to figure out when was the right time to let them know that I was there.
Yeah.
My mom was just so fidgety that she started to do laundry at like 3 o'clock in the morning. And in my mind, I'm like, does she not know that everybody is sleeping? Like, what is she doing? But I said, you know what? This is the time. So as soon as she started the load, I just got up because I was laying on the floor, but I put a blanket like completely
Yeah.
covering me. And like I had to make myself small because if I didn't, she would have
You would
already known that her
uh-huh.
six son is laying on the floor. So I got up and I went into their room, and the joy on their face, especially my mom started screaming and crying, and it was a ruckus. And my dad is like, come on, look at the time. Come on, come on. She was like, don't tell me to shut up. My boy is here. I'm so happy.
Junior is here. Yes.
And then my dad man of few words, and I know where I get it from. I hugged my dad and I felt his whole body
Collapse
crumble.
into you.
And I literally had to put my arm under him because he was like literally like
Mm,
crumbling. And that feeling, it's almost like every ounce of anxiety that was in his body almost was expressed to me. And it was almost like I felt what he was feeling, what he
yeah,
was thinking for all of this time period. And when this happened with Davina, I reverted right back to that. And in the moment, I wanted to call my dad, but then Davina came up with the notion that she didn't want a lot of people to know. She really didn't want anybody to know.
yeah. Like you guys have to see what's happening, what the plant, treatment.
Yeah, let's see what the treatment plan is. Let's see all of that before I decide if I'm going to share this with anybody.
Yeah,
So I literally had to carry that weight by myself, and
yeah,
all I had was her. So most of the time, the only times that I had to be emotional was my ride to work. I would just put music on and just cry
yeah.
and talk to myself, just allow the frustration to kind of come out and have those moments, right?
Yeah.
And that was something that was big for Davina. She's like, listen, like you've had so many things happen over the years, and because your body has failed you and you can't use basketball as your outlet anymore, like I'm concerned for you.
Mm,
And I used to have to keep putting her mind at ease and just saying, like, listen, my music in my drive to and from work is kind of my outlet,
yeah,
right? I'm finding ways to be creative of, letting that energy go. So like I used to have to like instill that in her so she didn't worry about me.
yeah.
Cause again, throughout her whole entire fight, I was her number one concern more than herself, which was wild to me. And
Both were doing that for each other. That's what's so you're covering each other
big time.
during that time.
And,
Mhm.
so we found out in June. Um, she ended up having the surgery to remove the lump in July. That was relatively quick. And then she started different treatment options. And by December, when she did her body scan and biopsy, they found that, there was no other cancer throughout the rest of the body.
Uh-huh.
So we're like, boom, what a great Christmas present,
Yeah,
right? So we go through Christmas and now the start of 2023. We're getting back to normal. We're showing up to people and kind of getting back to our routine of just hanging out with our friends, going places, everything like that. Now, 4th of July of 23, we go out to Long Island because that's where her family lives. And she was in the backyard racing our nephews and our son and just playing with the kids. And I remember there was at one point, they were doing a foot race in the backyard, and I'm paying attention and I see that she stepped kind of funny around the root of one of the trees. And I knew it, especially as an athlete. I
like
said,
she
that's
was
gonna hurt.
pounding.
And I saw the exact step, everything. And as soon as she crossed the finish line and she came over my way, I kind of grabbed her by the waist and pulled her to me. I said, are you okay? And she was like, you saw that, right? I said, yeah, like you're going to need to chill out, probably stretch. Like you're going to feel that, either tonight or when we get home.
Mm,
Cause I knew it was going to be like probably her lower back or whatnot. And a couple of weeks after that, she started to complain about her back. So this entire time we're thinking that she pulled a muscle,
yeah,
right? So we go through the rest of July, then August came and it wasn't getting any better. Then September came, and at this point, she's kind of basically bedridden. Like walking was a struggle.
yeah,
And I'm like, I really don't like how this is going. So for her, she was trying to do everything from a holistic and spiritual standpoint. And I was all for it, because we never thought or could even imagine
That it had
that.
anything to do with cancer, right?
Correct. So we're trying all these different things, right? And then my mother-in-law came out because at this point she started telling her mom, like, hey, I don't know what's going on with my back, but like I really can't even do anything around the house. So she was like, tell Junior to pick me up from the ferry. I'm gonna come and help you out. So Davina calls me. She was like, hey, when you get out of work, can you pick up my mom from the ferry? I was having a conversation with her and I just kind of let her know like it's been a struggle for me lately or whatever. So I was like, all right, that's cool. So I pick her up. And then at that point, my mother-in-law was just like, I don't like how, she's looking. Um, I think, maybe, we need to go to the emergency room. And
Mhm.
Davina's mindset was like, okay, what is the emergency room going to do other than give me pain medicine and all of that? Like, I know I pulled my back. Like that's what.
Everybody was thinking, yeah.
So there was out here in Connecticut, there's a lot of outpatient V.
Infusions and vitamin.
Yeah. So Davina found one of those that is literally right down the road from us here. And she said, you know what? I think I need to definitely get a shock to my system and get all of these nutrients that I've been missing, being I haven't been able to go outside and I haven't had the appetite because she lost a lot of weight at this
Yeah,
point. And I said, all right, cool. Find out whatever mornings that they have, and I'll just go to work late and I'll take you.
yeah.
So we go, these ladies were so amazing. And, we told them what was going on or whatnot. So they said, for this particular infusion, we have to do a full blood workup for you
Okay.
before we know exactly what your infusion needs to have in it, because these are tailored to your blood work. I said, all right. So they're very thorough. The next day, this was October 24th of 23. Davina calls me. It's like
Yeah.
5 o'clock. And my regional was actually at my office at that very moment. And she said, babe. And as soon as she said it, I'm like, oh
The
boy,
same
something's
kind
up.
of babe.
Same feeling. She said, are you busy right now? I said, what do you need? I
Yeah.
don't give a damn about this job. What do you need?
Mm,
She said, I just got the blood work back, and she's blinking black tears. So now I'm panicking.
mm,
She said, I forgot the lady's name, but she was like, they just called, and based on my blood work, she suggests that we need to go to the emergency room right now. I
God.
said, what? The ER right now? What's wrong? She said, right now my kidneys are failing. And there's probably a few things that's probably going on in there that, the doctors from that aspect, need to be involved in.
Yeah.
I'm like, damn. I said, all right, I'll be home very
Yeah.
shortly. So I let my regional know, like, hey, I'm sorry I have to do this to you, but I'm out of here. Like, I got to take
Mm,
my wife to the emergency room. I grabbed my stuff and again, bat out of hell driving home. And I'm praying without ceasing on my whole drive home. Like, God, please take care of my wife. Whoever is about to touch her, handle her, send your angels to be with them, because I don't need anything to happen to
mm,
my wife.
yeah.
Right. And I get home, and at that point she knew that I was, an emotional wreck.
Yeah. Yeah.
And she's like, if you need to cry, go right ahead. And I'm like, I think I got enough, when
Yeah.
I was,
On that
driving here,
drive. Yeah.
but let's go. Right. And the whole time I'm holding her hand, and she's just like, babe, I don't need you to stress. I don't need you to worry. I know I'm going to be fine, because that's what I'm going to will myself to be. I'm going to be okay. And we get to the ER. They do a whole bunch of tests. They do blood work again. They do a MRI and a CAT scan. And when she explained to them her back is the main issue, they took images of her spine.
Specifically. Okay.
The first order of blood work that came back, the first thing they asked, like, hey, you've dealt with breast cancer before, haven't you?
And
So in
that
my
was
mind, I'm like,
they just knew from the blood work?
And in my mind, I'm like, did y'all just go back into her file in my
Yeah.
chart and just look that up? So I was very skeptical at first, like, nah, there's no way that her back has anything to do with breast cancer. And I'm getting frustrated because I'm like, there's no way this has anything to do with cancer. Like, why are they not just focusing on her back? Like, why are they bringing up this breast cancer nonsense again? And I'm getting frustrated until like there was, I think it was at this point, it was a doctor and like one of the, no, it was the doctor that we first met, but then they were doing a shift change. So both doctors now are in the room with us. And they're like, this version of metastatic breast cancer has the ability to travel.
Mm.
Your back pain is not regular back pain. Your back pain is the breast cancer attacking
Oh,
your spine, and it is now eating away at the bone marrow, which explains why you have lost the mobility of using your legs and everything like that. And I just kind of sit back in the chair like, you have got to be kidding me. Like this thing again? So I said, okay, so what's the game plan? They're like, your best bet, you need to go to the cancer hospital down in New Haven, Smilo Hospital. I said, wait, so how are we going to get there? You need to get there as soon as possible. So you're not driving your wife. We already called the ambulance to take her there.
how far
And
is
I
it
don't know.
from where
It wasn't far. It's like
okay.
from there is maybe like 25, 30 minutes away.
Okay, okay, it's in the same.
But the weight of
Yeah,
that,
they kn
like
yeah.
for me,
Mhm,
it was very tough to stomach that. And then to be able to find the words to call my mother-in-law and tell her, that was one of the hardest phone calls that I ever had to make outside of, obviously her passing. So I called my mother-in-law. I said, the chances of us coming home right now is not looking great. She was like, what is going on with my daughter? I said, they basically saying the cancer is back. And like, I heard her like kind of have like a outburst really
yeah,
quick, then trying to gather herself so she didn't alarm our son.
yeah,
Cause, we were really trying to, shelter him a little bit so
uh-huh,
he didn't also have to worry. And, I'm sitting with her. We literally camped out in the emergency room for 2 days waiting for a room to become available,
mm,
and the anxiety that I was experiencing was at an all-time high
yeah,
because I was concerned for my wife, right? I did not know that breast cancer can attack more places than
yeah.
just your breast,
And when
right?
she with her first treatment round, did they even talk about that? Like, I feel like sometimes they don't kind of talk to people about what are the next steps or that this was the idea that
So
it won't spread, like
so there was a little bit of those conversations, but the source of that information we wasn't rocking with, because that
okay.
that particular oncologist, because Davina was very adamant and I was too,
Mhm.
that we did not want to do chemo.
Yes,
We
yes.
were willing to do everything else under the sun but chemo.
Mhm.
And this particular oncologist, and especially because I was in sales, I know when I'm being sold,
Okay.
and I don't like being sold at all. Right. So the moment that energy is being exhibited and everything like that, I didn't trust her at all.
That
And I let it be known, like, listen, I don't like your approach because
mhm.
you're quick to call all of these doctors that go the holistic route, and you're calling them quacks and you're calling them all these different names, but you're not listening to your damn patient.
Mm.
And if you're supposed to be somebody that is helping people get better, you should listen to your patients, to what they want, because they're the ones with the situation in their body, not you.
Mhm.
And of course, it's just, oh, well, that's how you feel. But the numbers, the numbers, the numbers. I said, okay, you want some numbers? I'm going to give you numbers. I said, I have two people that have dealt with breast
Mhm.
cancer.
Yeah, yeah.
One took chemo and the other didn't. Guess who's no longer here? The one who took chemo. So that's
Mhm.
all the numbers that I need, that I am not supporting my wife getting chemo.
Yeah, yeah.
Right? And that's the example that I'm going to go off of. So screw you and your numbers. I'm going off of mine. And, so at that point, we're just like, listen, give us every other option you have outside of chemotherapy
Yeah.
and we will entertain it. And for her, she didn't want to go down that rabbit hole. So we're like, all right, screw it. Cool. So we're going to rock out and continue praying and doing the things that we're doing and hope for the best.
Mhm.
And here we go again. She's going through, a few different, of the oral treatments and stuff like that, but they weren't chemo.
Yeah, they have
And
a
it's
pill. Yeah,
a
a
hormone
hormone
blocker,
blocker. Uh-huh.
because that's the thing that feeds breast cancer is
Mhm.
the excess your body as from a female, your body produces an excess amount of estrogen. And if the estrogen tank isn't shut off, it's going to keep
Mhm.
producing what's needed to feed the cancer and keep it growing. So they had to, basically shut that down. So we got to the point that that happened. And again, by December, they're like, hey, your numbers are improving. Um, we're at a place where we can maintain where you are. So she ended up being in the hospital itself, the cancer hospital, for a month. And then she had to go to a rehab facility for another month because she had to learn how to walk again.
That's how much of
So
her mobility had been.
yeah, like she couldn't walk, she couldn't even lift her legs up. Like it was that bad.
Mhm.
Right. And at this point, I had to take FMLA from work. I had to take over her role in the household of homeschooling my son during that time
Mm.
because we didn't want too much time to lapse and there
Yeah.
be a gap on his learning and everything. So I had to take that over. And then also my mother-in-law had to go back home to Long Island. So everything was on my plate,
Yeah.
during the fall and winter of, the ending of 23 going into 24. And when we got to the point, insurance started doing what insurance does and is just trying to kick her out of rehab. And I'm like, how can she come home without being able to walk? Number one. Number two, who from insurance is coming out here to evaluate her?
Yeah.
Because when you just look at her, you can see that she is nowhere near a place to come home. Right. And we had to fight that for like a week because there was one point that they're like, this is your last day of being here. I said, what? She can't even walk 5 feet to the bathroom. How is she going to go up 16 steps to get to our apartment?
Yeah.
And then I know that because the cancer is attacking her bones, she's very fragile. So I don't want to have to pick her up. Something happens to her and I have to live with that.
Yeah.
But none of y'all have to do that. I do.
Mhm.
I'm not taking that chance. So we need to figure out what is going to need to happen for her to be in a position to go home.
Yeah.
And the doctor appreciated me being very transparent and open with how I felt. And he went and actually did another call with the insurance company and they bought us an extra 10 days. So in that time frame, they had to ramp up her therapy.
Yeah.
And man, that was hard to watch, especially for the therapist. The physical therapist was in tears every day because
Yeah,
she's just
she's
like,
in pain. Yeah. I know
she's
that.
like, your wife is nowhere ready. Like, and I feel terrible trying to rush this process because they started giving her two-a-days and she
Mhm.
wasn't even strong enough to do two-a-days.
So
But
what were they
they needed to do
saying
that.
was the prognosis? Like, what was the next step? Were they saying, okay, we're going to send her home and come back to the hospital for treatment? Like, what were they?
So at that point, from a cancer perspective, they had isolated it enough
Okay.
that it was under control.
Yeah.
She did 10 treatments of radiation. So they were able to, shrink what was happening in her spine
Yeah.
basically down to a speck,
Mm.
right?
Yeah.
So she felt different. She felt less pain.
Mhm.
Like she knew that she was getting better because she can feel it internally. And, so from that point, they're like, hey, you're going to have to be on these particular meds. You're going to have to do this. You're going to have to do that. And then it got to the point that almost at home, I became her nurse
Mm.
because from the year before of doing the breast cancer, I mean, the breast reduction and taking the lump out, draining her tubes and those fluids, I had to do that. When she finally came home from the rehab facility, I had to inject the blood thinners before they put her on oral blood thinners. So I had to clean all of her wounds and make sure that all of the places, because she also developed a lot of mucus because she was flat on her back for basically 5 months. There was so much fluid in her lungs that they had to drain her lungs. I
Mhm.
had to be the one draining that, you know, twice a day, every week. And that was a lot at the time, but I didn't even realize it because I was just going with the flow of everything.
You just had
And
to be done. You didn't.
because reverting back to what I mentioned before, in sickness and in health,
Yeah.
I was very intentional of making sure that my wife had everything that she needed to be comfortable, that she needed to heal, that she needed to be happy again. I knew that I needed to be that for her, and I wanted to because I know that that was my job as her husband, and I didn't shy away from it. Um, so once we got to that place where she came home 3 days before Christmas, going into 24, and that was my Christmas present.
Yeah.
Like, I
Yeah.
wasn't even in the Christmas spirit. I did no Christmas shopping. I couldn't think about anything other than her. So when she came home that Friday, that Saturday morning, I woke up, I went to Walmart. I'm like, I can actually attempt to enjoy Christmas because my wife is home.
Yeah.
I went and bought a new tree, decorations, everything. Like, I did everything. She just sat in the chair in the living room and watched me just go to work, and put all that stuff up and just create that energy just for the three of us.
Mhm.
And again, the level of appreciation that my wife showed me in those moments, like, it meant the world. That's all I needed. Even though she wasn't, at 100%, didn't look or feel, her normal self, didn't matter. She was home. And even though I had work to do to take care of her, she was home.
Yeah.
And, that Christmas was just dope because we had each other.
Yeah.
Right? And then even when our son came into the picture, we always did things that was revolving around family as
Mhm.
well. So for that Halloween to not be normal, even though I still took my son trick or treating and everything, it just didn't feel the same. Thanksgiving didn't feel the same because I just ended up cooking a whole spread, making a plate for her, and then we had Thanksgiving basically at the rehab facility.
So she
And
gets home Christmas. You're happy she's not herself, but she's home, as she said. And then you go into the new year. How do things, like, did she start getting stronger?
yep. Like, the first time she went up the stairs without a lot of my assistance, we got in the house. She sat down. I literally moved the footrest and I lay in her lap. And we both just weep because we were so happy that she is strong enough to just get up a flight of stairs.
Yeah.
That's how we celebrated, was just pure tears of joy. And I just let her know of how proud I was of her because, again, you're talking 2 months ago, she couldn't do none of that. So because this was just around her birthday when
In
yeah, so
January.
it was, yeah, and yeah, it was like, it was probably after her birthday. We had just got home from Costco and I took all of the groceries up and she was like, "You know what, babe?" I had to like wear a harness and everything, like,
Yeah.
to guide her up and down the stairs. And she said, "You know what? I don't want a belt today." I said, "All right, I'm gonna be right behind you if you need me." And she took her time, and step by step, I'm just watching those legs just go up. And the whole time I'm like her cheerleader. Like,
Yeah.
"Yo, keep going, babe, keep going, babe." Like, man, like, the raw emotion that came from both of us. And I think it was a culmination of, at that point, the last 2 years.
No.
Like, those tears were very, very loaded. I could
Yeah,
tell you that much.
yeah.
And she just continued to progress to the point where by the summer, again, even though she wasn't at a place where she, started to gain her weight back, she was walking without her back brace. She was just walking around, period. She had more stamina to the point where, like, if she wanted to be in the kitchen, she could at least
She
make
do
a
it
cup
by
of tea,
herself.
do it by herself.
Yeah.
She got to the point where, because at this point, like, I'm bathing her, like, I'm taking her to the bathroom,
Mhm.
wiping her, cleaning her up. Like, I'm doing all of this.
Yeah.
And the first time that she was able to stand for 3 minutes just to wash her own self up, that was something we
That's
celebrated.
a big deal, yes.
It was a huge
When
deal
was
for us
that?
at that moment.
Was
So
that
this was the summer. This was like June and July of
Yeah,
24.
yeah.
And I remember going to Rhode Island because we became members of Audrey Car Museum in Newport because our son is super into cars. And we went to see the new exhibit that they had up. I remember getting out the car and she said, "You know what, babe? We're not doing a wheelchair today." I said, "Oh, really?
If she
You
could
feeling that good?"
yes.
I was like, "All right, cool. Come on, give me your arm." Then, so I'm walking proudly because, to be honest with you, during that time, my wife was probably like 115 pounds,
Mm.
coming from about like 150.
Yeah, that's
So
much weight loss.
it's a drastic difference,
Mhm.
in terms of her physical appearance, but I didn't see it. I was blind to her physical appearance. I still saw her as the Davina that I married.
Yeah.
So I don't know what it was that I could not see that. So no matter what, I loved my wife the same, if not more, during that
Mhm.
time.
Mhm.
And she couldn't understand it. Because again, even with everything she's going through, she's thinking about me.
She's like, Wow, how does my husband," but not from a self-conscious way, but more from a, "How is he doing with all of this?" I'm
And she used to ask
thinking.
me all the time because of the medication she was on, we couldn't even kiss each other on the
Mhm.
lips anymore. So all the physical intimacy stuff that we used to do and that we were accustomed to
Mhm.
doing had to come to a complete stop.
Yeah.
And you're talking about, again, years into this,
Yeah.
right? So for her, that was her biggest concern. Like, babe, like, I really feel like I've become your patient more than your wife.
Mm.
And I said, don't you ever say that again. You're going to always be my wife because I still view you the same exact way.
Yeah.
Whether you weigh 150 pounds or 160 pounds, it don't matter. You're still my wife and you still are the same exact way in my mind to me.
Yeah.
And when I first said it, I don't think she believed it, but just how I just loved on her in that
Yeah.
state,
Your action.
she appreciated me even more than she already did.
Yeah.
And that's all I wanted for her. And I've only shown the one picture I have of her in that state. I've only had the ability to show it to one person because I know that most people wouldn't be able to handle it. Because at this point, like, the world did not see us out at all. Unless you saw us at
Yeah.
Costco,
Uh-huh.
we stayed at home. We
Yeah.
didn't go anywhere. So going to this car museum was the first time that we was out in a couple of years,
Mhm.
right? I take this picture, and in the picture to this day, I look at it from time to time. And although it doesn't necessarily make me cry, but there's a feeling that I have inside of being proud of her gaining her confidence in herself
Yeah.
in that very moment that she's like, no, I am going to take a picture of me in this state because I am going to beat this thing and I'm going to get back to my normal
Yeah.
self.
Yeah.
Right. So now her hair is starting to grow back,
Mm.
because one of the treatments that she was on was very aggressive and it took her hair out.
Mm.
Right. Because her hair was a part of her brand and her
Yeah.
personality and her confidence, right? So when her hair started to grow back, I'm like, all right, my baby's coming back. So
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
I'm happy, I'm rejoiceful, and we're moving through the summer, and we're starting to make all of these plans of, all right, now that you're getting better, like we already knew that Connecticut was a stepping stone. Like, let's start planning our escape. Let's get the hell up out of here.
Mhm.
Once, the doctors give you that clear bill of health, we're moving.
Yeah.
So like those were
Where
the
did you guys know
conversations.
where you wanted to move to?
Charlotte, North Carolina.
Okay, yeah. One of
Mind,
the
we had
places where
never.
okay, and wasn't that
We,
one of the original places where the basketball team was interested in you?
oh no, no, it
Oh,
was totally different. It was totally
okay,
different.
okay.
We had never been to Charlotte before,
Yeah, but you just
right? So not even me, it was her. Like
mm,
she did like extensive research on Charlotte. And I remember getting home from work, and I come home because mind you, she's very conscious of not overdoing it and moving around too much because she would get fatigued. But when I came into the room, I look and she had two notebooks. She had her tablet and her phone laid out on the bed. She was like, as soon as you get comfortable, let me show you why I think Charlotte is
yeah.
the place to be. And I'm like,
She
man, this
sold
looks like
you.
a whole presentation. Like, what
Yeah,
is
she
this?
sold you on it.
And we had that deep conversation of here's why, here's all the pros, here's some possible cons, but we're not gonna know until we physically go there. So I think that needs to be our next trip.
Yeah.
So I said, all
You
right,
all
bet.
were planning all through the summer, all through when did things take a downturn?
October of
Okay.
24. So it's something about October's. Those
Yeah.
last 3 Octobers were really rough for us. So October, as soon as the calendar turned to October, she's just like, my back is starting to ache a little bit. She's starting to slow down just a hair. I said, babe, you don't have to do anything. Like, I'll take care of whatever. So I would get up in the morning, I would make them breakfast, make her smoothies, almost prepare her lunch per se. So all that my son needed to do was either throw it in the oven or throw it in the air fryer to warm it up. So like there was preparation that I did before going to work to make
Yeah.
sure that she had everything that she need laid out. I always made sure that her little medicine case,
Mhm.
because I went and bought one of those things so she didn't have to go open each
Yeah.
one
Everything
individually.
was
Like I
organized.
put it next to the bed. I would fill her water bottle up, which I'm using her water bottle to this
Mm,
day. I made sure she had everything before I had to go do what I had to do.
yeah.
And now, the first Sunday of October is typically there's a huge concourse for those that are in the car world. Concours d'Elegance is kind of like the grand finale of the car world,
Okay.
right? And the let's see, uh, October of 22, October of 22, because this was after her surgery and everything, she was pretty much back to normal. That October and that particular event, we got a chance to meet Jay Leno in person.
Oh, wow.
And we
I
took a
grew up watching
picture,
him.
and it was such a like wow experience, especially
Yeah.
for my son, because my son was watching Jay Leno's Car Garage since he was 3 or 4 years old.
Mhm.
Right? So to be able to have that experience was dope. And then every October we made sure to show up for that particular event. So now October of last year, we're like, all right, we're going to Concours, and I bought our tickets, but as we're preparing to make the drive to Newport that morning, she's like, babe, I don't think I have it in me to go inside.
Yeah.
I'm like, what? I was like, for real? She was like, I'll sleep on the way and see how I feel when we get there, but it might be just you and Kai, going in without me. Like, come on, babe. Nah, like, she was like, I don't want to be wheeled around in the wheelchair because like
Mhm.
today's one of them days. Because there were those
Yeah, up
fluctuating
and
days.
down. Uh-huh.
And she's like, today's one of them days that I don't even want to be seen in the wheelchair because, these folks haven't seen us in so long that I don't want to, put that shock to their system
Yeah.
of, how they remembered me and then what I am right now. So I said, okay, we get to Newport and she's like, nah, I feel terrible. So like, y'all go in. I'm like, damn. So already it didn't feel
The same.
normal. It didn't
Yeah.
feel I just wasn't okay with it, but I had to deal with it, right? So now what's crazy is here comes Jay Leno approaching me and my son again. And he said, you know what? Because at the point, I could tell that he realized that we were familiar, but it didn't register in the moment. He's like, hey, you two, come on stage. Like, wait, what? So as I'm trying to sneak a picture to be like, babe, we're in front of Jay Leno again, I literally snapped the picture and then she's calling me. I'm like, what is going on? So I was like, babe, you all right? And she's in tears.
Mm.
Babe, what's going on? She was like, I hate to do this to you and Kai right now, but we gotta go. I can't be here anymore. I'm in so much pain.
Oh gosh.
And I'm like, oh, babe, Jay Leno just pulled us on stage. She was like, are you kidding me? She was like, just call me back, but you can't stay. You can't
Yeah.
stay. Just, apologize to Kai for me, but we can't stay.
Yeah.
So like now I'm like, oh, how am I gonna tell him? And now eyes are on me. And
Because
I'm in
you guys
such
are
a
up
weird,
there. Uh-huh.
yeah, because now we're in front of thousands of people. And it was like a little trivia thing that they were kind of doing
Mm.
um to just gain some free stuff. And I don't even know how I positioned myself to even participate, but I did and got some free gear for my son. And the moment they're like, okay, you guys can, kind of go back and we just take off to the right. And I said, Kai, mommy said to apologize to you and I'm apologizing to you, but we can't even stay because mommy really doesn't feel good.
Yeah.
And he was like, for real? And I know that he was disappointed, but he understood at the same time.
Yeah.
He was like, it's okay. I got to see a lot of cars today.
Mm.
It's okay. We can go. And even the way that he said it, man, like the whole walk back to the car, like I'm fighting tears for
Yeah.
two different reasons.
For your son
Because
and your wife.
correct.
Yeah.
So I am, and even like right now, I feel those emotions raw, like,
Mm.
telling you this. Um, So we're running, back to the car. And then when I get to the car and I see her just doubled over in tears, it broke me. And I'm like, what do you want to do? Do you want to just go to the emergency room out here or do you want to get back to Connecticut? She was like, I don't want to do anything this far away from home. Like, let's just go back to Connecticut and just go, to the people that I know already. I
Mhm.
said, all right. I said, just know I'm going to get us there as fast as I
And
humanly
how
can.
far was that?
It's a little over 2 hours.
Okay. Okay.
And unfortunately, because, normally we would hang out in Newport for a little while to break up the traffic that
Yeah.
happens on a
Yeah.
typical Sunday. And, this was the first time that we had driven back, that early. So the traffic was horrible. And I am listening to my wife cry in agony
Mm.
in the back seat, and it was like, all I could do was just cry because there's nothing that I could physically do.
Mm.
And that was what was breaking me up
As
because
a man,
normally
as
I
a
can find a
yeah.
way to comfort my wife. And I didn't have the answer or the solution right then and there. So when we get to Connecticut, we get to the exit. And this particular exit is a fork where if I go to the left, I'm going straight to the hospital. I'll be there in 3 minutes. If I go to the right, we'll be home in 9 minutes. And she woke up and she said, you know what, babe, go home. I said, babe, are you sure? She said getting some sleep, the pain subsided a bit and it's not as awful. Like I can manage. And I rather just at least, go home with y'all. tonight, and then we deal with all of the doctor stuff tomorrow. I said, for whatever reason, you change your mind, we will be jumping in the car and going to the hospital.
Yeah.
He said, I know, I know. So we get home. I wash her up. I cook, feed her. I do everything, make sure she's comfortable. And I said, you just let me know how you feel and what you want to do. And I was just right there next to her. And we just hung out. We talked. She got a chance to sleep. The next morning, we go to do her blood work. And the blood draw nurse immediately was like, I have a feeling you're going to need some blood. And as soon as she drew the blood and did her little check real quick, she's like, you're going to need blood. Instead of waiting around, I'm going to call the emergency room now to let them know that they
Absolutely.
need to find you a chair because you really need blood like
Yeah.
immediately.
Yeah.
So we get to the hospital, and as soon as we gave her name, they're like, oh, we're prepared for you. You're going to go upstairs. You're going to da 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 da. And this time felt different for me
Yeah.
because I just had this feeling like something doesn't feel right
You
at
didn't feel
all.
like
And I
you're
couldn't,
about to just go home after this blood transfusion or whatever. Uh-huh.
and they gave her the first pint of blood, and then they do their typical check. So that way they know if to take, the thread out or not. And immediately they're like, oh, she's going to need another one, and she's going to need plasma too. I mean, platelets, sorry,
Mhm.
platelets. And I'm like, damn. So at that point, she's like, you know what, babe? Take Kyrie home, get him something to eat. Y'all relax for a little bit and then come back. Cause, those things, those drips take hours,
Uh-huh.
right? And she was like, I don't want him just sitting here with nothing to
Mm.
do. We come home. I think I stopped and I think I bought him something because I don't know, my energy was just not feeling the day at all.
Uh,
And I had no appetite for myself. So uh it wasn't until we got home and I was having separation anxiety a little bit. Um because the first stint that she was in the hospital, especially because my mother-in-law was here, I spent a lot of time next to her.
yeah.
Like there were some days that I would just spend the night, wake up, come home, cook breakfast, make lunch and dinner, so that way my mother-in-law didn't even have to do that. I cooked for them, did whatever schoolwork I needed to do with Kai, and then went right back to the hospital to take
Mm.
care of her. And just even thinking of that routine now being different with my mother-in-law not being there, I don't know why I just knew there was a possible chance that she was going to get admitted. And as I'm thinking this, she calls. She was like, "Guess what? I'm not coming home."
Yeah.
Damn. I knew something was up. I had a feeling, and I was like, "You know what, babe? I'm not even surprised." But you don't even have to say anything else. Kai and I were already on our way to come back to you. So I was just like, just tell me I'll tell you when I park, just tell me where you're at and I'll come find you. And from that point on, that week was kind of normal of a whole bunch of tests. The following week, which is what last week was last year,
Yes.
that's when everything started to go downhill.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until, because now this year, I took Kai to that same car event. I really couldn't enjoy it because now it was almost like I was going back in time.
To the exact
Because when I
same.
say everything was exact, we parked literally feet away from where we parked last year.
Wow.
So everything, like walking down the same street, going to see the same ticket person
Mm.
to get into the event. When I say everything was exactly to what it
Yeah.
was last year, it was very hard for me
I
to
can
to to, to manage that, right? And again, the first week of this month is when it really started to hit me and process what was happening last year. And last week was probably the most emotional I've been since her passing. because it was the first time that I got to really analyze what I had to diminish from an
Mhm.
emotional
You
standpoint.
had to suppress
Because
a lot in order to just keep going. Yeah.
and to sit here right where I am right now, it was a challenge because for the first time in a year, I really got to understand what I was seeing, and what I realized that I wasn't computing. I was present,
Yeah.
but I was also fighting the reality that I was watching my wife pass away before my eyes.
Yeah. It didn't hit
And
you when it was happening. You were just like,
I had hope, I had faith, I had everything positive pouring into it because she did as
she
well.
had it as well. Yeah.
He just kept saying like, I'm gonna get out of here, I'm gonna get out of here. And there was some real, oh man, there was so many just dark days of, she had some heart issues. Yeah, just her health was just fluctuating like crazy. And to have the moment to process those days, especially like every calendar day, I am going back to what was taking place. And I'm like, damn, like I was really, really front and center of watching my wife pass away before my eyes, and I didn't even know it.
Well, it's
And
another gift that she gave you, like, of being hopeful and just not wanting you. It's like she was protecting you as well. Like, hey,
yep.
just to get through this period.
And that was very tough for me to just navigate. And actually now we just experienced this weekend. So last Thursday, I finally got the notification that her headstone had finally been installed.
Mm.
But there were so many delays with that, after the funeral, that going to the cemetery, because I am not a big death person and a cemetery person like at all. And both of us shared that. Like,
Yeah.
I'll never forget the day um when I finally moved in. I think we went grocery shopping and a bunch of other things. And we was approaching her apartment, but we were on the main strip when you get off the highway in Jersey. And I see a hearse far up ahead. So I start like slowing down because I don't even like being or seeing
Close
a
to it.
hearse,
Uh-huh.
right? But I didn't want to come off as a weirdo. So we're continuing our conversation, but I am driving so slow and they're driving even slower to the point that they don't even make the light.
Mm.
Damn.
Like
And
you
then
had to be
there was
next to the
nothing
yeah.
next to the hearse. So, and we were in the lane we needed to be. So I am slowly approaching the light, and she looked at me and she said, "Do you get creeped out about Hearst as well?" I said, "You too?" And we both busted out laughing, right? And she's like, "Listen, I am not even gonna I'm not even gonna question it. If you don't want to stop next to that thing, you don't have to.
That's
Because
something
I
only
don't
your
even like
wife
being
could
next to
get,
it."
like, that you're staying back from the light.
And we, man, from that day, just sharing that
Yeah,
together
yeah.
was very impactful to our whole entire relationship. So like every time we saw her hearse on the road, like she already knew that she didn't even have to say anything. I am going to make my way
You guys are
either to
like
get ahead of it or just away from it because
mhm.
we were both uncomfortable.
Yeah,
Right. So that was my whole thing. And then when it came to funerals, I can count on my hands how many funerals that I went to.
yeah.
I don't do those either. So
So you had to
her
bury
passing
your
away
wife.
wasn't,
Yes.
and so her passing away last year was not even on my mind until, man, November 1st last year. She finally was able to get out of ICU. And even the night before, when my son and I was there, because that was another thing, like all last October, I didn't even tell my bosses at work. what was happening. Like I kept all of this inside. So I was bringing my son to work with me every day without anyone knowing.
Yeah.
So he was still doing his schoolwork, but he was with me. And then we would stop at the hospital. I would still continue to make my wife smoothies, drop it off so her nurse can come down and pick it up.
Mm.
Because it was always allowed visitors. And the only night that we wasn't there super late was obviously Halloween because I had to take my son trick or treating. But I made sure him come by in his costume so she got to see
Yeah.
what he looked like
Yeah.
in person. And that next morning, even when she called me, she sounded normal.
November.
And November 1st.
Uh-huh.
And she said, babe, I feel good. Like everybody that has, seen me so far have been so excited to see me like this. She was like, was I really that bad? I said, babe, I think I was trying to explain it to you last night. The last couple of weeks were really rough.
Yeah. Yeah.
When I say really rough. I'm just gonna keep it there. Like it was really rough. And I said, I saw the difference in you last night, and I was trying to explain that to you. So I could only imagine what you look like today. So I can't wait to
Yeah.
see what everybody else is seeing. So she said, okay. She said, but before you come, can you stop at the store and get me X, Y, and Z? And as I hung up from her, something just told me, go get that stuff right now.
Mm-hmm.
And on the way into work, I made a quick detour and I was like, no, I'm gonna follow this small voice. And I
Hold on
went
one
to the
second. I'm going to edit this. Hold on one second. My
Yep.
daughter's school is calling. Hold on one second.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
Sorry. Okay. Sorry about that.
No, you're good.
My daughter's school. So I'm gonna have to have you back for part two. Okay, but we'll okay and start.
Yeah.
So
So
you said let you go to that store and get these things.
so I go, I grab everything that she needed. And as soon as I get to work and I parked, she called me and she said, babe, I hate to do this to you because I see that you just got to work. At this point, they had started giving her chemo. That particular day was going to be her third round, but they were just so impressed on how positively her body reacted to chemo. But they're like, we can't give you no chemo if you haven't eaten anything. And she had been
Oh,
adamant she's not eating what they have at the hospital. So I said, babe, don't worry about it. I'm already ahead of you. She was like, what do you mean? I said, I already got the stuff. She was like, when did you do that? I said, I did it before coming to work. I just got here. Let me get my team in order and then I'll get there. We get there and she's sitting up in the bed. And when I tell you she had like a glow, that glow was intense. I'm like looking at her like,
oh.
damn, you look good. Like you really, really look
Like this
good.
is my Davina.
Yeah. And she was just smiling and, her normal self. And what she said to me over the next probably like 20 minutes has been what fueled me to be on this journey that I am on right now because she poured into me in a way that she probably never did before. And hindsight being 2020, I did not know that was going to be the last meaningful thing that my wife told me.
Mm,
Because number one, she lamented the fact that for as long as she has known me, I have never been on my own list of important people to take care of. She
mm,
was like, since we've met, I have been the number one person on your list. Kyrie has been on your list. Your parents, your sister, even your employees, your teammates, everybody has come before you. I don't need you doing that anymore. Moving forward, you need to be the number one person on your list. You need to take care of you. You need to continue to, progress in the person that I know that you are, because the more that you pour into you, the bigger and better you're going to become.
mm,
Then she turned to Kyrie and was just like, I want you to understand the dad that you have the best example of a father, you have the best example of a husband than anybody could ever ask for. So whatever your dad is doing and saying to you, I want you to listen to that and I want you to
yeah.
keep being just like him. And The doctors walked in right not too long after her saying all of those things. And mind you, I'm a hot mess. Like I'm crying as she's telling me these things. And I want to say crying, the tears are just flowing
Yes.
because I can feel the gratitude exuding from her for
There's that
me.
word that we mentioned earlier too.
And it was so thick that I couldn't even say anything. I could just all I could do is pour out of my eyes. And the doctors came in and say, "Hey, Conroy, we're just about to call you because if Davina's numbers stay this stable throughout the weekend, we're probably going to be at a point of her coming home with you guys, even though we're not in the clear. She
Yeah.
can at least come home." I said, "I don't care what we have to do. I just want my wife to be home."
Yeah.
And that weekend came and went. That Sunday, I'll never forget. We had a chance to sit down, watch football with her in her room. I got a chance to actually wash her up because that was one of the things that she woke up and asked me to do, but I had already had a bagged pack to do it.
Yeah.
You know, because one of the things that I did throughout our whole relationship, I was the one that did her nails. I painted her nails, I did her pedicure and manicure. So I had
You
already
did all
planned to do
that.
that
Yeah.
because she looked like her normal self and I wanted her to feel good.
Yeah.
And when she woke up and made that request, I said, "I'm already ahead of you again." She was like, "What do you mean?" I said, "I have all of this stuff. I have your shampoo. I have everything you need because I had already planned on doing that for you." And she just kind of shook her head because we were on video at that point. She was like, "All right." So I said, "I'll see you in a few." But as soon as we walked into the room, I'm like, something just changed from the time that we were on video to when I got there. And I'm like, this isn't the same person that I was just talking to.
Yeah.
So immediately I said, "Babe, you're tired. Take a nap. We're gonna be here when you wake up. I'll take care of you when you get some rest." She slept for a couple hours, woke up. I did everything, cleaned her up, fed her, washed her up, and we had a great Sunday. And from that Monday, when I tell you downhill spiral, oh my gosh. It just went left quickly. The Tuesday came and I wake up, I send her a text, "Good morning," text, "How you feeling?" And I see that I didn't get my blue check marks that she saw
Mm.
it.
Yeah.
So now I'm calling her and I'm texting her throughout the day. So now I can't even focus at work. I'm like, what is going on that she hasn't looked at her phone all day? And when we get to the hospital, she's just staring into space and not saying a word.
Mm.
And at that point, I felt uncomfortable. My son felt uncomfortable. I ran out of the room. I went and grabbed her nurse. And mind you, because I spent so much time in the hospital, I know when a shift change is happening. I know when nurses are
The
doing their
next person is
reporting,
coming.
all of those things.
Yeah.
And I go to the nurse. I said, "Listen, I know that you're probably just getting up to speed on the patients that you have tonight, but can you find out what was going on with my wife all day? Because she is not normal right now and it's making me nervous." So, long story short, she was unresponsive to being able to speak, but she was aware of everything else
Mm.
going on because she was still able to do the commands that the doctor was
Yeah.
giving, but verbally responding wasn't happening. So at that point, Kyrie and I probably stayed maybe an hour because it was very uncomfortable for both of us to just sit there and see her like that.
Yeah.
And then I could see that she was drifting to go to sleep. So I said, "You know what, babe? I know that you can hear me, love you dearly, get some rest, and we'll see you tomorrow." Tomorrow ended up being my son's birthday. At
November.
8:06 in the morning, I get a phone call from the hospital. "Hey, Conroy, we just giving you a heads up that we had to place your wife in a medically induced coma."
Mm.
And I was shattered because I'm like, of all days for this to happen on my son's 12th birthday, he can't even get his mom to wish him a happy birthday.
Mm.
That absolutely broke me to the point where Kyrie heard me crying and came running into the room. And as soon as he looked at me, he was like, "Is it about mommy?"
Yeah.
And all I could do is nod to him and I just hugged him. And I don't even know how a presentation that I had to do at work, how I got through that presentation, I don't know. because for the rest of the day, I couldn't even put words together.
Yeah.
Right. And at the time, I had texted my older cousin who was very close to Davina. And I just let her know that morning, like, hey, your cousin is in a coma. She said, what? Text me your address. I am on the way. So she drove from Virginia
Connecticut.
immediately
Yeah.
just
So we're
because she
in
knew
the
that November 6th on my
okay.
son's birthday.
Early sim
And my cousin gets here. We go to the hospital. And to just see her in that state was literally the hardest, well, now the second hardest thing I ever had to do.
yeah.
Um, and even at that point, the faith that I had that she was going to pull through, it was blind as hell. I have no other way to put it
Yeah.
because even the doctors were trying to paint the picture of reality. I knew what reality was, but I still didn't
You're
want
like,
to,
that's not gonna
give it.
be. Yeah. Mm.
She's going to beat the odds because that's my wife. She's a fighter. She has the utmost confidence. She has an inner strength that I've never seen out of anybody in my entire life. And this is what I'm telling the doctors. So I said, I don't know what you guys believe in, but I believe in God and I believe in my wife. So regardless of what the numbers and the tests and everything is saying, the person that's laying in that bed, I believe wholeheartedly that she's going to get out of this mess and wake up and continue doing what we have planned to do together. And yeah, that just wasn't happening because, yeah, she looked good for the rest of that day. But the very next day, I just knew the downturn was happening. And then November 8th was, yeah, when she took her last breath.
Yeah.
And at that point, I couldn't be in the room because, again, just my relationship with death is not the greatest. And I did not want imprinted in my brain for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
So I left the room and then my son joined me because he was like, I don't think I could do it either, Dad. I was like, that's fine. And what I didn't know, the moment that, she was passing, I literally looked at him. I said, for the last 16 years, I don't know a life without your mom because we have done everything together. So, like for you, all 12 years of your life, you have never slept a night without your mom. This is a new territory for both of us.
Wow.
So, I want you to know that moving forward, it's going to be a different me because I got to learn life without her just as much as you do. So, we're going to be doing this together. I don't know what's going to come out of it, but just know that we always gonna have each other. And at that moment is when, the clergy and doctors and nurses came in to let me know
Wow.
that
Yeah.
it was official. And, the love that we both shared is the main thing that has gotten me through that time and even has gotten me through the grief,
Mm-hmm.
where I don't have any regrets because of how I carried myself throughout my marriage, because of how I damn near worshipped the ground that my wife walked on. I gave her everything that she ever wanted and needed for herself. And vice versa, because
Yeah.
she
It
poured
was
into me the
mutual.
same exact
Yes.
way. Um, Even her last text message to me was a series of it was a video of when Kai was 3 and I repainted and decorated his room. I made him a Paw Patrol. I put it
Yeah.
together a Paw Patrol bed and, did a whole wall mural and everything. It was I forgot one other picture and no, the other picture was the pictures of me finally getting promoted at work, my last promotion.
Mm-hmm.
And all she said throughout all of our time together, I have been nothing but proud of you for all of the things that you've done as a father, as an employee, and as a husband.
Wow. You know,
And
Conroy, as you were talking the whole time, I was just, and knowing the story, knowing you lost your wife, I just kept thinking of that saying, it is better to have loved and lost than to never have loved at all. And I think your story exemplifies that more than any other story of love and loss I've ever heard because even before we were recording and you said there's no regrets that I have with my wife. And when I met you, I did not know that it was this soon cuz the way you talked about your wife, I'm like, I want to meet her. And you're like, "No, she passed." Cuz I was like, I want you guys on the podcast. But I had no clue that it was that recent because we met in August, so it hadn't even it's not a year.
It's still not a year yet.
Yeah. But just and I have to we have to do I have to bring you back because I want to know and everyone's going to want to know the journey of being a widower and raising a son and keeping your wife's memory alive and having her with you. You showed us her
Water bottle.
and just like people need to understand that even not even just for losing someone, but how you appreciate someone when they're alive. And it sounds like you absolutely did that.
Some women need to understand, like, it is okay for you to want what you want in a husband.
Mm,
Don't
mhm,
let anybody change your mind on what it is that you want. You can't tell me that out of 8 billion people on planet Earth, you can't find one person to
mm.
connect with you.
Speak.
I find that
Yes.
hard to believe.
Yes.
So whatever your list of characteristics, traits, pros, cons, and things you will compromise, whatever that list is, believe that there's somebody that is going to fit those attributes. And it may not be 100%, but I would say you could get to 90. And the
Okay.
reason I'm confident in that, Davina had a list.
Yeah.
And when we found that list and I read everything on her list, I'm like, this is
You are really preaching, and they need to hear it from a man. I'm so grateful for you to share this story on my platform. I appreciate it. I feel like I know Davina, and I know she's just with you every step of the way as you pay tribute to her and share the story, and even to your son. He's going to grow up with such a respect for women, for marriage, for a father. Like, this is the part we don't talk about. All of this starts at home. And
yes.
if you didn't get it, you got to heal enough to, but you can't just, like you never saw anything positive and think you're just going to roll into a healthy relationship. Yes. Thank you so much, Conroy. And thank you all so much for joining, sticking with us. You are going to get part two when we dig deep into busting these myths and creating a healthier narrative. Again, if this episode at all touched you, make sure you share it, you like it, you tag someone or send it to someone who needs to hear this message of restoring hope in relationships and marriage and in family. And don't forget, if you want help as a woman, really getting yourself ready for a healthy relationship, don't forget to get my book, The Boundaries to Bliss Blueprint for Women Who Are Finally Ready to Win at Love. The link will be in the show notes, as well as to Conroy's podcast. And we'll be seeing him soon again. Thank you so much. I'm Dr. Nicole.